If people can hear me, can they give me a mic check? Cool. I'll give it a couple minutes before I get started. $25, I guess. How's everyone's conference been so far? I know we're about towards the end, aren't we? It's good to hear. I'm glad. Well, hopefully I'll entertain y'all for this last bit. Yeah, I had to think about it. I wanted to think about an eye-catching title, so that kind of popped in my head. But it'll kind of make sense as I go along. That movie came out before I was born, so I have watched it. But let me go ahead and get started. Well, everyone, my name is Lexie Thach. I'll be presenting my presentation, Cyberpunk Security, Refreshing Your Security Mindset. And first off, I just kind of want to go off with the agenda. This might seem like a lot of slides, but I guarantee you, I'll be probably asking questions here and there. If anyone's got any suggestions or they want to raise their hand, feel free. So just to go straight into this. So we'll be diving into the evolving landscape of cybersecurity, and we'll explore like the current state of it, how we shape it, and some of the challenges and opportunities that come ahead. Just for a quick introduction, my name is Lexie Thach. I've been building a lot of edge technology, robots, drones, and right now I'm looking to work in satellite security. I've been in cybersecurity specifically for about 10 years so far. In the past 3 months, I've presented at DEF CON 31, a few local security conferences. I got some papers published for satellite security, and now I'm trying to get a robotics and drone security startup off the ground, which all might sound quite fantasy, but well, I just want to say that 3 months ago, I didn't think I could do any of this, and yet here I am in Vegas, Baku, and Washington for a few other talks for drone security. So just to kind of go to start off, in cybersecurity today, we have a rapidly changing landscape. 48% of organizations have reported an increase in cyber attacks this year compared to the last. Now, this figure might be smaller than the past 6 years, but a lot of people can say this might be due to the evolving defense mechanisms or the underreporting of cyber attacks. Specifically, the pressing need for transparency and collaboration in our domain can't be emphasized enough. We're living in an age where a lot of attacks nowadays we might not really know about them until after the fact. And as technology begins to rapidly evolve and expand, so do some of the attackers, and a lot of the intrusions may not be as forefront as they used to be in the past. And so one of the first few technologies that people like to bring up is AI and machine learning. Artificial intelligence has been reshaping our landscape for quite some time. We have a lot of AI-driven solutions that offer enhanced threat protection and automated responses, and they also introduce some novel vulnerabilities. With the expansion of AI, a lot of the adversarial attacks have increased in complexity over the years. Things like data poisoning, model inversion are just a few examples of how AI can be compromised. And as AI becomes more integral to cybersecurity, we have to become more robust in how we implement security as a whole, as well as safeguarding some of the data that AI learns from systems is paramount. By the way, I'll be sharing these slides as well as links to other information if you'd like after this presentation. But in my experience, as we continue to grow using things like machine learning and AI, we become very dependent on the data from it as well as the capabilities of it. However, that assumes that we trust it. We'd like to think that as technology is advancing, these types of threats may not be coming ahead, or at least most business owners, I admit, try not to think about it. But we can't exclude the fact that as new technology begins to grow, so will exploits and other vulnerabilities for them. just from a few of my experiences, data poisoning and model inversion has started to become the norm, as well as bypassing restrictions on certain things, say like ChatGPT or OpenAI's interface, to bypass some of the content restrictions, whether that's to create malware or new vulnerabilities. So, all of a sudden a script kiddie before couldn't build a complete C2 framework, but with the implementation of AI and a quick dispersal, that future might be much closer than we think. And so, like, another new dimension to security is biometrics. This offers unique physical and behavioral attributes. It helps us do identity verification. However, this comes with its own set of challenges. With biometric data, especially in areas like counterterrorism, we kind of raise concerns about privacy and civil liberties. And it's kind of essential to strike a balance between security and privacy. As I've come to go into areas such as AI, object detection, or for example, one example I can think of is in China, a lot of security systems will use facial recognition for enhancements to both smart cities and other technology sectors. However, that raises a very big concern about privacy and some of the civil liberties that come with just not having the government spy on you nonstop. In the States, that hasn't been the case yet. However, as we can kind of continue down this path, things such as the way your pupils look, the way your face looks, your identification based on your fingerprints, those will become more and more essential to security. I believe it may not be as widespread, but biometrics does not always have to mean I'm going to be using someone's biology in certain security measures. And so another new concept, well, this isn't really a new concept, but the implementation of zero trust architecture in our society today. In today's complex digital environment, it's crucial to ensure that users and devices are authenticated and authorized before granting access. This approach is supposed to minimize the risk of insider threat and data breaches. However, implementation of zero trust architecture has its own set of challenges, which I'm sure quite a few people here probably know about. it always takes a lot to never trust and always verify, especially in today's cooperative environment of working. We're always connected with technology. In the past, especially with COVID, we've seen that, like with teleworking, it's become much more difficult in today's complex digital architecture to implement some zero trust while the business is operating. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't. It is crucial to be able to try to build out some of the trusts between different sources as well as organizations if you're working with them to try to implement a zero trust model. NIST very much recommends it. So, with the cybersecurity market booming and the rise of cyber threats, there's a significant demand for specialized services from threat intelligence to incident response. Companies are investing heavily in cybersecurity solutions to protect their digital assets and security. On average, just from some of these infographics, JP Morgan spends about $600 million on cybersecurity each year. And we see in the news multiple different incidents all over the place, whether in different industries or countries, or even just in our daily lives. Cybersecurity is a growing market, and you can expect it to expand in both technology and funding within the next couple of years. And so this is, I believe, the part that people are probably most interested in. When we talk about edge technologies, we're talking about decentralizing some of our digital infrastructure. When we process more data, we're going to need better, faster response times. But decentralizing a lot of these types of technologies comes with its own set of securities, and the technologies that I'm kind of referring to here are autonomous vehicles, drones, augmented reality, virtual reality, smart cities, CDNs, and remote healthcare equipment. And so with a lot of these industries, and technologies, we have to kind of like assume that you're going to be grappling some new threats in the coming years, especially when it comes to like hacking, and some of these sectors need to be able to create more robust cybersecurity solutions. That picture is actually from the last time I went to DEF CON, and the open challenge was to hack into cars, smart cars, or other systems, just as a regular challenge. And I can always tell you from experience, there were definitely quite a few people who were able to break in within a span of about a couple days. So, as we talk about some of these edge technologies, autonomous vehicles, and drones, we can think of like challenges that come along with them. We have a trust in that these systems will be able to navigate and move properly, but if, say, a drone goes beyond line of sight, or an autonomous vehicle that we trust is able to do like parallel parking, some cyber attacks can certainly create more, I would say, money problems for companies when it comes to some of these issues that come up. Like, we see these as challenges, as new innovations, but the truth is, most likely you're going to see more and more people start mixing in different vulnerabilities for these types of technologies. And I'd like to go over a few examples of that. I think I've touched on this a bit, but again, when IoT, we have billions of connected devices. Challenges are continuing to grow, so we have to ensure that the security of these devices is paramount to prevent unauthorized access or data breaches. You'll see things from your smartphone, computers, streaming devices, your tablet, your smart TV. The interconnection of devices within our daily lives has become more and more commonplace. And as we continue to move into the future, there's going to be new emerging challenges that come with it. And so one specific sector that I am currently trying to work in is, working in is drone and UAS and UGV security. For people who may not be too familiar with those acronyms, it's unmanned aerial system or unmanned ground vehicle. So these types of systems are becoming more and more popular, and while they offer a lot of benefits, they also present their own security challenges, unauthorized access and data breaches, as well as physical threats and some of the concerns associated with the technology. So, Chris, you asked, how sharp of a learning curve is the difference between IoT and web app? I will get to that question. Well, unless someone else is going to answer, I can get to that question in a bit. But so when I was presenting at DEF CON, I built a drone that was utilizing a HackRF module to run essentially RF transmission attacks against other drones of similar nature. So my objective wasn't to build a drone to hack into things. My objective was to build a drone to hack into other drones that were hacking into things or preventing them to. This can be accomplished in numerous amounts of ways. I could go on forever about this, but there's kinetic, there's jamming, there's acoustic. There's multiple ways to bring down unmanned aerial systems. However, for me, I guess I just wanted to look cool, so I built another drone hooked up to a Yagi antenna, and I brought down my neighbor's DJI drone, he had hooked up a portable module connected to a Raspberry Pi Zero with a custom RF mod. So it was definitely a fun experience to try. I do have a good amount of experience with aerial security. Yeah, it was a little bit like a deployment. I like I said, I could go on forever about this, but I will say, if you try to do this type of testing, make sure you notify your local FAA and FCC offices, because they might not be too fond of you transmitting on certain frequencies that coincide with a DSB or other aircraft systems. I'm not going to talk about that right now. So, yep. Robotics and satellite system security. This is a field that I have been vastly researching and getting into. Robotics and satellite system security plays a crucial role in a lot of sectors. However, they're just as susceptible to remote hacking attempts and physical tampering, and so ensuring the security of the systems is important as well. So the first picture I kind of want to talk about is that is also from DEF CON. I don't know if anyone's heard of Hackasat. So for the Hackasat challenge, a few teams were tasked. So the Air Force Research Labs launched a CUBE satellite, which is a small low Earth orbit satellite, to essentially create a challenge for people to break into it. Multiple teams were able not only to get into it, but a few of them were actually able to take pictures using the satellite. And that's kind of one of the fun things that we talk about. But the truth is, this comes kind of in the effect of different events that have happened in the past. One such is the VSAT KSAT network attack. So during Russia's invasion of Ukraine, satellite assets and infrastructure became pretty significant targets. And so VSAT satellite network experienced a deliberate attack that affected modems across Europe. And in another related event for Starlink, a cybersecurity expert from Belgium demonstrated that it was possible to essentially hack into a Starlink satellite, and he revealed that it costed about $25 for him to acquire the parts for him to hack. So talking to a few of my associates in industry, while satellite security is still growing and it may be a bit young in its maturity. That doesn't mean, especially with AI and new other edge technologies coming into place, progression is going to come very quickly. Um, for those who may not know about this, there is actually a security framework specifically for satellites, both by NIST, and there's one specifically by the Aerospace Corporation called Sparta, regarding some of the potential threats that come with satellite security and low or orbiting systems across our planet. um, I I went to an aeronautics conference to kind of talk about this in more detail. Like I said, I'll have these links in the slides. But essentially, we have to be able to adapt to some of the new growing threats when it comes to building newer technology systems, such as satellites and robotics. So, I did not. I did not inform NIST about that. um, for the past 3 months, it's been quite more of a passionate hobby of mine to start building these systems. However, it has gotten me some notoriety in certain areas, and it's definitely opened some interesting conversations with different people. I had a conversation with some associates in the European Space Agency regarding how they deal with decommissioning old satellites and how exactly that works. Yeah, I'm definitely looking to kind of build out my framework a bit more when it comes to hacking like IoT or in drone networks. But specifically, a lot of it is there's a bit of an issue with like policy between like the FAA and somewhat of the FCC when it comes to operating. So I want to talk a little bit about why I'm talking about this as a whole. You know, I'm a huge fan of science fiction, and for me, cyberpunk is always like mirrored or even predicted like real world security trends, things from hacking to corporate espionage. And the lines between fiction and reality are just starting to blur, especially as we're continuing to progress in an age of, our discussions on AI, IoT, biometrics. Uh, a lot of these stories kind of echo cautionary tales. And so, the genre kind of like foresights and underscores the importance of like proactive cybersecurity in our increasingly digital world. Um, so I come from a background where I guess I come from a traditional blue team or purple team background, where I've done traditional security. I've done cloud security. I've managed enterprise systems, virtualization. I've worked on networking, things from Cisco to uh, McAfee. And initially, like I think to myself that, you know, I never thought I'd find myself working in a lot of these like edge technology sectors or even talking about them. But here I am. What I'm trying to say is that although some of this stuff may seem impossible to you or other people, or it may seem like a sector that isn't having a whole lot of growth yet, I just want to say it for me. I'm passionate about these types of things. I'm passionate about the increase of edge technologies and the evolution of security. I'm the type of person that like sits at their desk looking at exploit DB on the weekends. But it's just so interesting to watch as our world continues to grow with technology. And I kind of love the idea that we're growing into a bit of a, okay, it may not sound good, but I do kind of think it's cool that we kind of mirror some cyberpunk dystopias from books like Neuromancer or TV shows like Ghost in the Shell or Blade Runner. And so it's just I say if you think that you're becoming more tired, or you feel like security is not going to go anywhere in your future, or you think the market is becoming a bit dry, I think you should be able to open your perspective a bit more, even if you think it might not seem like it's there, you know, whether it's virtual reality, drones, satellites, there's probably a sector for it. And, if you think it's interesting, I say go for it. But one of the things I also want to kind of talk about is that cybersecurity isn't just about technology, it's about the people behind it. Our industry grapples with a pretty big staffing challenges. 59% of leaders indicate that their teams are understaffed. This isn't merely a numbers game, it's about equipping teams with the right skills, communication, critical thinking, and problem solving, as well as the attention to detail and some of the essential skills required in our industry. Skills such as reverse engineering still require a human element. Just because we have all of this technology doesn't mean that we're, outmoding ourselves out of the job. I believe these technologies can enhance and develop our skill sets and our capabilities, but they should not be there, or at least in my opinion, I don't think they're, at least right now, they're not going to be there to replace us. Skills, jobs like reverse engineering requires like a specific type of mindset to go into when it comes to ripping apart code and trying to figure out why someone built this. Because even with AI, we're still a good amount of time before we'll hit like artificial general intelligence. So we still have to decide why a human or a group of humans would decide to do something to our environment or to our organization. And so it's people like us that are able to, take on those challenges and take on the critical thinking, the problem solving, and like the teamwork and leadership needed to, tackle some of these new issues and new technologies. And so, preparing for the future, it's going to hold a lot of promises and challenges. And 78%, we anticipate a surge for demand in a lot of technical cybersecurity contributors in the coming year. By the way, I'm pulling most of these statistics from ISACA's 2023 report. But, we see like 40% foresee like an increase in demand in cybersecurity managers. Budgetary considerations are also evolving, with 51% predicting at least a modest increase in the next year. This could be a response to the massive threat landscape that the integration of AI and cybersecurity has in our field, and the need for skilled professionals to navigate these challenges. Sorry, so I guess I didn't explain just the pictures. They're mostly just placeholders, but the picture on the bottom lower right is just some of the basic steps on reverse engineering. It was mostly just to kind of denote like what the purpose was, and why even with as much things as we have written out, we still need people to be able to understand the concepts needed for reverse engineering. If that answers your question, Chris. So, as we kind of grow into this future, we're going to need more skilled professionals to help navigate these challenges. If you feel like, you're starting to stagnate in your career or your position, I say take a leap of faith. I say if there's something that interests you, you should go for it. Security is going to keep evolving, as well as the technology around it. And we shouldn't be afraid of the challenges and, the promises that like AI could give us. You can doom scroll all you want. You can predict and say AI buzzwords, or companies can say AI buzzwords all they want. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be up to people like us and other professionals to be able to navigate these types of issues and challenges. And so, keep your head up high. like I said, 3 months ago, I didn't think I'd be talking about robotic security or building hacking drones or going to another country to talk about satellite security, but I guess here I am. And I think all it took for me was just the willingness to be able to learn and adapt to a new growing future. So, you know, cybersecurity landscape is continuing to evolve, and it's crucial for all of us to stay informed, proactive, and collaborative. So, let's work together to build a good, secure digital future. All right. I hope I didn't bore you guys too much. I'm open to any questions and answers. Thank you. So I actually have these on my GitHub, and I can drop a link into the chat for it probably after this presentation, but everyone should get a copy. As far as the 3 lines for reverse engineering, let me just double check that. I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah. So information extraction, modeling, and review. Essentially, when you start like reverse engineering, you just have to understand the concept of like what you're looking at as far as the application is concerned, and kind of building a model, or if you're working in security, building a threat model for it. And then from there, you'll probably work with a team to just figure out what it's doing, what it's talking to, or how it works in the environment, in maybe like a unit or a unit test. But I also have the references on the last slide, which has all the data and where I pulled a lot of this information from. Yeah. I mean, I'll definitely say this when it comes to when it comes to touching on like drone security or satellite systems, it's a very interesting field, just because not many people talk about it or think about it until it actually happens. um, so I know that there's been incidents in the past where people have been able to actually use drones to slap like a Wi-Fi pineapple by Hack5 onto it and just spoof someone's network to get the credentials or break into a bank using it. When it comes to, especially if you have like soldiers or people that are transitioning into the Space Force to work on satellites, it's definitely an interesting field. I come from I come from the Air Force, so I do have experience. I do have experience setting up SATCOM and radio systems and dishes. Yeah, that's fair. Um, a lot of the times it's you might not always have people that want to test these things out just because they fear what they might see, but there's definitely like different groups and organizations that are just kind of dedicated to just building like open source security for drones or satellites. And I don't know like how your local organizations are where you live, but at least for me, I can kind of rely on some of the hacker spaces in my area of like old people that probably know where that Hackers movie from 1995 is. But I go to them for kind of some advice and just some guidance sometimes on just the industry as a whole. So a couple questions. Where would you advise? begin learning IoT, cybersecurity. I would say so. I mean, some of the NIST documents do kind of talk about it for like IoT security, but I think honestly for me, I think I learned it just using through different like open source projects, as well as like satellite systems. So for me, it's looking at some of the professional organizations that might have different information on IoT security. I looked through like Amazon's security like audit guides and some of their build guides for projects regarding like smart home systems or Amazon Alexa, which I don't know if anyone's ever tried to build like a smart AI voice for home system, but that's kind of how I got into IoT. Um, but as far as certifications for satellites, are we talking about like security certifications or just certifications? Because I'm not okay. So both. Okay. There are certifications, I believe, for operating satellite systems, and when I say operate, I'm referring specifically to some of the maintenance and like deployment functions for satellites. So just understanding like low Earth orbit positioning, understanding GPS, understanding some of the telecommunications involved. I know that with a few agencies, like they tend to they have their own like internal security teams, but when it comes to like some of the more advanced threats, um, they might be outsourcing it to different companies for satellite security. um, at least that's what I got to learn in some of the conferences I've been into. Yeah, those are so yeah, those classic intros. One resource I guess I use a lot is um like awesome open source projects on GitHub that gives you a lot of these intros into like IoT firmware, QEMI, RSCV. Oh, actually, yeah. If you look up Hackasat, actually, I'll just put it in the chat. Hackasat 4. You'll see a lot of the write-ups that the teams used for essentially it was a CTF competition to hack into a satellite. So they walk through like what they did for some of the qualifying rounds and some of the code and tools that they use, like Gidra. They used a few telemetry tools for radio or system communication. Well, okay, so just for reference again, the Air Force Research Labs launched that satellites just for that competition. So hats off to them. Yeah. Okay, TechNet Soul. I haven't heard of it, but I'll probably look into that too. And there's quite a few different resources online. I will say, like I said again, if if you intend to kind of like start getting into this space, and for me, I'm a very hands-on person, so I like to like learn by doing. Just be careful to know what your local and state regulations are when it comes to some of these things, especially if you're testing out drones. Okay, especially if you're testing out drones near an airport, just maybe check with your locality first, which would probably be your airport or your local police station maybe. But yeah, that's probably most of what I have to say. So I know that there's a way to actually yeah, so there is like apps like Before You Fly and I mean, I know like with commercial drones, you'll have like apps for authorization to fly. I could probably give the whole lesson on this, but um, if you have like different equipment, like if you have a Flipper Zero or a Heck RF module or those types of tools, you can definitely start at least learning like radio signal communication and just understanding how to manipulate certain signals. Yep, air control and before you fly. The FAA also has like I believe a live map of like drone operators. If you maybe they still do. I do know that there is a drone security certification. I believe it's called DSOC. But yeah, it's by I'm trying to remember the name of it. If I remember, I'll post in the chat. DroneSec. Yep, that's who they are. They're pretty. They got some pretty decent information, albeit maybe a little outdated, but some of their courses aren't too bad. I will say though, I'll say this: just make sure you know the basics first before you start running straight into it. It's great and all to go into drone hacking and stuff, but if you're not familiar with like the robotic operating system or RD Pilot or whatever firmware you're using for your drone, it might be more challenging if this is your introduction. So yeah, that's definitely true. I'm also that type of person where I love to get into more advanced topics, but sometimes you just have to be aware of your audience. But looks like I got a couple more minutes. I got 3 more minutes left. If anyone else has any more questions, feel free to message me or add me on LinkedIn. And I will post those links shortly for the presentation. I have no plans yet. Okay, maybe besides Philly if you're nearby, but not yet. Is there a question? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you mean generative AI? What was the question again? John Con was fun. Oh, is generative? Yes, generative AI is worth learning about, especially bypassing the content restrictions on OpenAI's like or ChatGPT system. You can also probably do it through like OpenAI's API or something. But yeah, I would say that's a good section to learn too. If you're interested in AI and just how like it operates and yep. All right. Well, thank you everyone. Hope you all have a great rest of your conference and a great rest of your weekend.